Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today's video was inspired by Action Comics number 544, which was the first appearance of the 80s Brainiac, which is by far my favorite version of Brainiac of all time. But before we get into it, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell, and leave a comment. We've got an awesome community here, and it's all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. With all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to this one takes place in 1982 when a Unicron-like machine planet moves through space, eating every world in its path. The consumed mass is added to its own, and the monster planet continues to grow. So Brainiac journeys to the Fortress of Solitude, where he actually seeks the help of Superman to stop the Doomsday device that he made. Brainiac uses a jetpack to fly, and both he and Superman are right next to the machine world's surface when devices similar to Doc Ock's robotic tentacles reach out and grab them. They are sucked into the machine world, and a black hole-like effect pulls them towards its core. Superman grabs a wall and is strong enough to hold on, but Brainiac is swallowed up. Superman is almost swallowed, but as he tumbles down a throat-like corridor, he flies down at an angle, breaking through a metal wall, where the machine world's immune system scans Superman, figures out his weaknesses, and then shines what looks like colored spotlights at him. Green spotlights seem to be kryptonite rays. Red spotlights are red sun radiation, and yellow spotlights seem to be gold kryptonite. Thankfully, Superman dodges all of these and keeps going. So the machine uses gravity increase and gravity decrease to attack Superman. But nonetheless, Superman gets to the core and destroys its brain. Superman returns to Earth while Brainiac is stuck inside the machine world. Which brings us to the main plot, which takes place 1 year later in 1983. Brainiac's physical body is converted into energy, and it is forced through miles of microscopic filament, only to be ejected into the vacuum of space. Brainiac is not in control. Instead, he is swept along by solar winds. His particles drift to a world large and looming before him like a great gray blot, barely visible against an endless ebony sea. His molecules swarm planet-side, only to discover not life, but something else. This world is not organic, but machine. Life is not carbon-based, but electronic. For reasons unknown, he has been brought here to this living computer built long before the birth of our galaxy by things unknown. Brainiac sweeps through its memory banks, merging with its cells, making its knowledge his. He remains part of these computers for all too long before learning all there is to learn. And then simply he moves on, now understanding his mission, now controlling his total being. His essence separates, moving from world to world, absorbing information scattered across multiple galaxies. No world is ignored. No culture is unprobed. No knowledge is untapped. Then his particles cluster together once more and move through the event horizon of a black hole. He edges through time back to the very beginning until finally He sees the hand of God itself creating the universe, just like we saw in the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Brainiac fears the hand and feels that if it touches him, he will be destroyed. So Brainiac flees. The past is now gone, and Brainiac returns to his computerized coffin deep within the machine world where he began this journey, where death is not the end, but rather the beginning of something new. Brainiac gestates and evolves for months until finally a brand new skull ship emerges from the machine world that birthed it. And within the skull ship, Brainiac's metamorphosis is now complete. He is now reborn and has seen the hand of the one he refers to as the master programmer. He who controls Superman, who Brainiac now thinks of as the Angel of Death. These are Brainiac's only two enemies now, and he believes they both intend to destroy him. So he sets out to destroy them. Brainiac states his intentions of outwitting them both. He also says he will raise an army and march into hell itself to destroy those who would destroy Brainiac. Brainiac says to win any battle with the master programmer, he must raise an army more powerful than the master programmer. So the skull ship travels to Sistis 2, and Brainiac calculates how much power is needed to decimate Sistis 2 and turn the organic inhabitants into his slaves. Brainiac attacks the planet, and 1/4 of the population is destroyed in the first assault. But Brainiac feels nothing, no remorse, not even joy. An inhabitant named Scora uses his communications device and makes an emergency call to the supercomputer at the Fortress of Solitude on Earth. Superman answers the call, and Scora begs Superman to save them from Brainiac. Superman says he's on his way, and as he streaks towards Sistis 2, he ponders how Brainiac survived his fate in the belly of the Doomsday Machine world. Superman arrives on Sistis 2, and one of the natives attacks him. A missile is fired at Superman, and when he destroys it, he is bathed in synthetic red sun radiation, ridding him of his superpowers. A Sistis ship lands, and the new Brainiac steps out. He almost looks like a chrome Terminator with an oversized head made of some sort of transparent, iridescent hexagonal plates. Brainiac tells Superman that once he's killed him, this universe and all universes will be his to rule. But before he destroys Superman, he will analyze him in case there are any secrets Superman possesses. So a hatch on the side of the ship opens, and more Dr. Octopus-style metal tentacles reach out and grab Superman, pulling him into the tight space. Superman is laying down on a stretcher-like device, which then hovers behind Brainiac as he walks down a metallic hallway. Brainiac says it seems amazing to him now that someone like Superman ever managed to defeat him. But Brainiac says before his metamorphosis, he had a mere 12th level intellect. He was just a child. And now he's finally grown into his adult form. Brainiac reaches something that seems like a mixture between the captain's chair on a bridge and a throne. And those glass hexagonal plates on his head open up, and countless cables snake into his brain, plugging into him. More of these glass iridescent hexagons slide into place, and now Brainiac has an elongated xenomorph-like head as he and his ship interface. Again, Brainiac monologues and tells Superman that he is the angel of death who works for the master programmer. Superman says he has no idea what Brainiac is talking about. So Brainiac attempts to download his knowledge into Superman's brain. Superman screams in pain as he sees what Brainiac saw. Since Brainiac's attention is directed at Superman, the inhabitants of Sistis 2 launch missiles at Brainiac's skull ship. So Brainiac turns his attention towards them, and then when he's doing that, Superman is able to escape. As the weapons of Sistis 2 damage the skull ship, that damage is passed along through the interface between the ship and Brainiac's mind. So Brainiac experiences pain, and he cannot break the interface. Superman grabs that ship from Sistis 2 that they arrived in and manages to escape. Brainiac sees Superman's ship on the main view screen and says that if Superman is permitted to live, then surely he will destroy Brainiac. Brainiac says he's supposed to be emotionless, yet Superman's very name is causing him to experience fear. So Brainiac chooses to analyze this illogical response and run a self-diagnostic. Superman's ship flies into an asteroid field, and as Superman hides from Brainiac, his powers slowly return. Brainiac comes looking for the Man of Steel, only for Superman to fly at the skull ship and attack it. Brainiac then launches a torpedo designed to take away Superman's powers again. So Superman flies away, and the torpedo chases after him. So Superman flies through the heart of a yellow star, getting his powers fully back. And the torpedo can't survive in the heart of a star, so it explodes. Superman flies out of the other side and circles back towards the skull ship again, but it's gone. It has the warp power, and it could be anywhere by now. So Superman is forced to return to Earth, which brings us to our epilogue. Long ago, two of the first races in the universe were the Old Ones and the Kirtan. The Kirtan lived in stars, draining them of their energy, because the Kirtan were cursed with a hunger that never ends. The Old Ones, conversely, were immortal and didn't even know what death was. And as such, the Kirtan coveted what the Old Ones had and sought to devour their entire race. To that end, the Kirtan started a massive war, and they created a race called the Necrons to fight for them in this war. So, in turn, the Old Ones created the Eldar to fight the Necrons. And in the end, the Old Ones simply left, never to be seen again. And the Kirtan had spent too much energy on this pursuit, so they withdrew as well. And since they could not do what they were created to do, the skeletal robots known as Necrons went into hibernation in their tomb worlds. And the Eldar no longer had a purpose either. So they pursued only pleasure to the point where it became a problem. So splinter groups of Eldar left their world and spread out through space. One such ship crash landed on Earth, and the man who would eventually lead that faction of Eldar became known as Superman Red. And of course, Brainiac knows all of this. And during the time that he spent drifting like a cloud of energy through time and space, Brainiac became aware of the Necrons. So since the army he raised on Sistis 2 didn't work out, Brainiac's skull ship lands on a tomb world and he prepares to wake up the Necrons after millions of years of hibernation. And their new mission is going to be to destroy Superman Red and Superman Blue. But that's a story for another day. And speaking of stories, today's story was not an actual game. This is what my players and I refer to as a player handout. So in other words, sometimes I tell a short story like this one to set up what comes next. In this case, what comes next is Brainiac and the Necrons teaming up, and we are going to roll dice and play that out actually this Saturday. I received a question recently where a listener wondered if every video I do is a game where we were actually rolling dice. Every video that I make is the continuity of my game world, but not every single video is a situation where we roll dice. If I'm doing a video and I tell you what was rolled on the dice, then that means we played it and it was a game and so on and so forth. And then there are other things that are games, and I will type it up as if it were a short story. And even if I don't tell you we rolled dice, it was still a game. But sometimes, like in this video, sometimes it is just me reading an issue of a comic book to set things up for what comes next, right? Or sometimes it's just me making the whole thing up and telling my players what their characters would know. Or if the players in that particular game session are guilty of acting like their characters in game know what the player knows out of game, then I might not give them information like this. But if I think they're really good about not metagaming, and I think that knowing what's happening behind the scenes, even if the characters don't know this information, if I think the players knowing the information would mean that the players have a better time, then I do it then, you know? I should also probably mention that in my day job, I'm an artist, and as such, I have a very strong urge to create. And I tend to think of my game world as a sort of conceptual sculpture, right? Or a very big painting, but the canvas is in the minds of those who experience the game world. And as such, I tend to spend way more time creating things and putting information onto the internet than I do relaxing and just sitting back and watching a video and taking in information from the internet. And as such, I pretty much never visit RPG websites. Not that there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think it's great. It's just not something that I make the time to do, you know? And so the reason I mention all of this is that as a consequence of that, I tend to be an island unto myself. I sort of live in my own little bubble and I do my own thing. And when I talk to friends that I do make online about gaming, I notice that they have an entire gamer language that I do not speak, which to me is kind of funny because in some cases I was playing role-playing games like before they were even born, right? But still, I don't speak the gamer language at all. So while I refer to this kind of a video as a player handout, you might have some other word to describe this style of video. And if there's something you guys would prefer me to call it, let me know in the comments section. Otherwise, I'll just keep calling these player handouts. Also, if you want me to say up front, whether it's a game where we actually roll dice or whether it's just a player handout, or there's kind of a hybrid of the two that my friend Dave, who sadly is no longer with us, he ran one of the best games I ever played in, and he just called it Dave's Diceless Game. And you never roll dice for anything. and it was great, you know. I could do a video just about Dave's Diceless game, but it was just all interactive storytelling. Um, so yeah, sometimes we kind of do it that way. Like especially if we're feeling really lazy and we want to just talk more about maybe something that's not as combat oriented. We just want to talk about the what is the character doing in their downtime? Like let's say they fight crime at night. What about during the day? Like do they have a significant other? Do they have a job they have to go to? We tend to not roll dice for that stuff and we just do the Dave's Diceless thing with that most of the time. But yeah, if there's a terminology issue, just let me know. Um, and in the past, I didn't really draw attention to which video was which kind of thing because to me, I didn't think it mattered any because I sort of assumed that people were here just to sort of hear the ongoing story of our world unfold, right? And even player handouts, in my mind, count as the story of our world, right? Exactly as much as something where we roll dice. They're both continuity. But again, if you want me to handle it a little different in the future, let me know. Speaking of the future, in the 1990s, we had a major villain in our game called Necron. And this player handout serves as a kind of a almost like a prequel to what is coming down the pipe, right? So we haven't gotten to the 90s yet. I'm still kind of thinking about how I want to tackle the 90s because a lot of what we did not involve famous characters. We had a lot of OCs, a lot of original characters that we made up. And in the past, when I've uploaded videos about that kind of stuff, they don't get a lot of views. Like people kind of just don't care. And so I don't know if I should, like, I just don't know how much I should include there. You know what I mean? I don't know if I should maybe do like Monday through Friday is like Marvel and DC and more mainstream stuff. And maybe on the weekends or something is kind of like the other stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know. Let me know in the comments about that too. What do you guys think? Because the great irony is like 90% of our game has always been about the original characters. And 10% of our game has been about the famous stuff. You know what I mean? So I'd be curious what you guys think. And but yeah, like I said, this sets up what is coming. The 90s were some of my while I didn't really like the 90s in real life, the games that we ran in the 90s were some of the best games we ever played. So that's pretty cool to be kind of hinting around at that. So I did like what we did here in this one. And as always, I hope that you liked it too. If so, I would love it if you took a minute of your time to smash that like button. Check to see if you're subscribed because YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. I hear all the time now from people who write me and tell me that they themselves were unsubscribed and had to go looking for me again. Um, and then finally leave a comment. I think that probably helps the channel out more than anything does. Even like my friend Vince this morning just wrote good morning. That's great because I've noticed the videos with comments for whatever reason, however YouTube works, um, YouTube is going to then show that video to more people. The stuff with no comments at all, YouTube thinks it's not worth anybody's time at all, as I understand it. But yeah, so that's it for this one. From all of us at the longest running superhero role playing game on earth, we hope you have a good one, and we will see you guys in the next adventure.